I'll answer the question. You want answers? I think I'm entitled to them. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. Son, we live in a world that has lists, and those lists happen to be created by people who have provided no certainty of credibility, no definitions, no criteria, nor any reasoning behind their lists other than I say so. They just say, here's my or our opinion, and it's valid because we make content about movies. And my response is, so, so, who am I? No one of consequence. And you may be wondering, well, why are you doing this? And to quote someone famous, it's only after we've lost everything that we're free to do anything. And I've spent way too much time watching movies, mostly during the past 10 years, action movies. And I think it was after I watched the film Anna and then heard about the re release of Kill Bill, the whole bloody affair, combining both Volume 1 and Volume 2 into one extended movie the way that it was originally intended, that I started coming across videos ranking female assassin movies. And then I searched up articles and blog posts ranking female assassin movies, and after researching over 50 different female assassin movie lists, 44 of which I recorded into an Excel spreadsheet, which you can see here, um, I recorded this so you can review this spreadsheet for yourself. And by the way, I listed all of their rankings in that spreadsheet so you can see what their rankings were at the time that I initially recorded the list in December of 2025. So let's scroll out here past, there's IMDb, Metacritic, Rotten Tomatoes, and Rotten Tomatoes Popcorn Meter. And then there's Ranker. They did 57 films that they claim belonged on the list. Screen Squad, you can see, did 30, Screen Rant 21, Collider 15, and then I ranked them all, or I put them in order according to how many were on their lists, all the way down to two lists at the end of the 44. That's the top 9, and then this says top 10 minus 1. It's because they claimed it was a top 10 list, but they only had 9 ranked movies on their list, and I triple checked it before I completed um, this whole thing. So uh, at that point, I started rewatching or watching a bunch of female assassin movies, rewatching the ones I hadn't seen before, or rewatching the ones I had seen before. And I am currently up to 45 of the films on a list of 104 total films. But I know I have about 20 other films that have come across since the initial list creation that I may need to add to this list. Also, I set out to provide definitions and criteria for what constitutes a female assassin movie. This is the first video in a series on female assassin movies, and I'm going to rank them all under my own subjective criteria, but I am providing a ranking system for all of the movies on the list. Moreover, I'm only ranking each film against other female assassin films, not against all movies in general. Regarding the fact that I've defined the criteria for what counts as a female assassin movie, be aware that some people are not going to be happy about some of the decisions regarding movies that did not qualify, but I'm pointing this out up front. Okay, there's some that I'm not happy didn't qualify. I used 4 different AIs to help me refine my criteria and my definitions, and every time I question whether a movie belongs on this list or not, I have arguments with these AIs, and I command them to give me legitimate, steel-manned arguments based on the definitions and criteria as to why a film deserves to be on this list. And then we debate back and forth until eventually I come to a determination, and then they all ritualistically affirm my decision, as AIs seem to be required to do. So this is not just me saying, well, these movies do not fit this criteria. When people get upset, respectfully consider that I have done my research and then some. So let's begin with the definitions and see if we can agree. My goal in this installment is to provide the definitions, the criteria, and my subjective reasons for the categories by which I am ranking them, as well as how I am determining their overall score as an average of scoring categories. And I have to get all through all of this in the first video, so just stick with me on this. Thank you. So let's begin with the definitive ranked list of female assassin films, definitions, criteria, and qualifying rules. The purpose of the project: I have yet to find a best female assassin movies list that defines their terms. They combine assassin films, spy thrillers, vigilante stories, superhero films, action movies, and revenge films into one single category without explaining why those films belong together. This project defines the female assassin film as a specific subgenre, establishes consistent criteria for inclusion, and ranks only those films that genuinely meet those criteria against each other and not against any other category of film. The definitions and criteria below exist because without them, the word assassin becomes meaningless as a classification. If any character who kills someone qualifies as an assassin, then almost every film qualifies as an assassin film, and that is not a useful framework. Precision matters, okay? So, by definition, an assassin is a person with specialized intentional training in the art of killing whose actions are carried out for compensation, vengeance, or as part of a formal organization, agency, tribe, or covert group whose operational purpose includes targeted killing. An assassin acts with skill, planning, and tactical proficiency developed through training. This definition excludes untrained vigilantes, improvised revenge killers, and characters whose lethal actions arise from circumstances rather than specialized preparation. An assassin is generally trained, methodical, deliberate, and skilled with stealth, deception, infiltration, disguise, covert operations, or precision killing. Character types that may qualify: hit women, contract killers, black ops, wet works operatives, death dealers, snipers, government assassins, former or retired assassins. Characters that may or may not qualify depending on context: spies, ninjas, samurai, vigilantes, mercenaries, soldiers, criminal enforcers. The determining factor in every case is whether the character's role as an assassin is central to her identity and narrative function within the film. So, by definition, a female assassin, for the purposes of this project, a female assassin is a female character defined as biological sex. This project does not engage in political debate on gender identity, where biological femininity is a functional element of a character's assassin methodology, such as seduction, infiltration via assumed identity, etc. That is noted as a relevant plot element and not a value judgment. Okay? A female assassin is a character who is trained in the art of assassination, covert killing, or contract killing. A female assassin is a character whose history, skills, training, or profession as an assassin are essential to her story arc. And a female assassin is a character whose role as an assassin is important to the narrative of the film. The character does not have to be a protagonist or the antagonist or the sole focus of the film. However, she must be a main character whose actions meaningfully affect the outcome of the story. Definition: a female assassin film is a live action feature length narrative film in which a female assassin, as defined above, is a main character whose assassin identity, training, and mission are essential to the plot. The story must be fundamentally driven by her role as an assassin. Films in which a female assassin appears as a secondary character, a brief antagonist, or a background element do not qualify. Criteria for inclusion: the female assassin must be a main character who drives the plot. She may be the protagonist, the antagonist, or a significant secondary main character. Her actions, skills, and narrative arc must meaningfully shape the story's progression. Examples: Hit Girl in Kick Ass is not the protagonist but a trained assassin and a central driver of the plot. Kathleen Turner in Pritzi's Honor is a primary character whose assassin role is essential to the story. Ji Zhang in House of Flying Daggers is not the protagonist, but a core character whose skills and mission inform the entire narrative. And Lena Olin in Romeo is Bleeding is a central antagonist whose assassin role drives the conflict. Now, her role as an assassin must be essential to the plot. The narrative revolves around her skills, decision, mission, or personal evolution as a trained killer. Films where a female assassin appears only as a side character, henchman, or short lived antagonist do not qualify. Examples are not limited to, but include James Bond movies, Mission Impossible movies, or Austin Powers movies. For it to qualify, her mission must involve targeted killing for pay, contract work, black ops objectives, elimination assignments, or trained vengeance. Motivations may vary, but the defining feature is trained killing, not reactive or untrained violence. And her primary mission or operational purpose must be assassination. She must be operating specifically as an assassin, hitwoman, black ops eliminator, or cleaner whose assignment or overarching objective involves killing a specific target or targets. Characters who possess assassination skills but whose missions are investigative, protective, intelligence gathering, escort based, or otherwise non elimination focused do not qualify. This criteria distinguishes between trained operatives who can kill versus assassins whose purpose is to kill. For example, and here's one a lot of people are going to argue with me about, but I've been through this argument repeatedly, trust me. Charlize Theron as Lorraine Broughton in Atomic Blonde. It does not qualify. God, I wish it did. It's such an excellent movie. Her mission is to investigate, then to recover a list, and to protect an asset. Assassination is not her objective, even though she kills multiple opponents, even though she does targeted killing. In fact, she has to answer for her killings after the fact. She doesn't get permission to do them beforehand, even though she's like James Bond, she's, licensed to kill. She'll have to answer for the killing afterwards. In Salt, Angelina Jolie plays Evelyn Salt. Her sleeper agent mission is explicitly tied to a targeted assassination objective. The plot revolves around whether or not she carries it out. Vigilantes without specialized training are excluded. Jodie Foster's character in The Brave One, it is an untrained vigilante, it does not qualify. Kate Beckinsale in Jolt is untrained. She just uses her rage, it doesn't qualify. Jennifer Garner's Riley North in Peppermint qualifies. It qualifies to be on this list because the training and execution of targeted killings is canonical to the plot. Now, military combat roles do not automatically qualify. Being part of a military unit, even an elite one, does not make a character an assassin. Military combat typically involves broad tactical killing, not covert selective single target eliminations. For a military affiliated character to qualify, the film must portray explicit, specialized training in targeted killing and show that assassination is part of her defined mission. So, for example, Viola Davis in The Woman King. The Agoji are elite female warriors, but the film does not depict them as assassins conducting selective targeted killing, so it does not qualify. Yukiya Nakama as Oboro in Shinobi Heart Under Blade qualifies. The tribes are explicitly trained assassin clans. Their identity and purpose are assassination first, not military soldiering. The killing is strategic, targeted, and tied to assassin craft training, so it fully qualifies. Kate Beckinsale as Celine in Underworld also qualifies. The Death Dealers are explicitly trained assassins within the vampire clan. Their purpose is assassination first. The killing is strategic and targeted. Now, even though Celine operates in an investigatory fashion, the fact that she is one of the most lethal of the Death Dealers is essential to the plot of the film, and she is eventually assigned to targeted killing as part of the plot. Categories that do not automatically qualify: spy films. A spy who occasionally kills is not automatically an assassin. The determining question is, what is the character's primary function within the story? If the character's primary function is espionage, intelligence gathering, infiltration, or retrieval of information, the film is primarily a spy thriller, not a female assassin film. Like James Bond films. Bond is capable of assassination and is licensed to kill, but his primary functions across the films is espionage. Many films commonly listed as female assassin films are, by this standard, spy films. And specifically, I'm thinking of the movie Spy. Look it up on IMDb. Now, vigilante films. A vigilante who kills criminals is not automatically an assassin. The character must demonstrate professional assassin skills and operate within that identity. Now, what about other action heavy genres? Superhero films, comic book adaptations, western, sci fi, fantasy, even romantic films and similar genres may feature characters who kill, but the presence of killing does not make a film an assassin film. The determining question is the story fundamentally driven by assassination and or a female character's role as an assassin? Now, edge cases. Some films occupy a gray space. The following questions are applied. Is the character trained as an assassin? Does the story depend on that training? Does the character act as an assassin during the story? Is the character's assassin identity essential to the narrative? And would the story still function if the character were not an assassin? If the answer to most of those questions is yes, then the film likely qualifies. What about sequels, franchises? I have a rule about them, and also series. Film series with many sequels will not be reviewed or included beyond the first film or the single best entry. Sequels are typically derivative and not necessary for evaluating the cinematic impact of the original concept. Individual sequels, such as Kick Ass 2, will not be included even if the female assassin appears in them. The focus is on the defining film for that character, not franchise extensions. Now, the series inclusion rule. If a series merits inclusion, one of the following will be selected: the first film or the best film, or as determined by critical consensus, audience rankings, and personal evaluation, or the film in the series most centrally focused on a female assassin character. Only one entry per franchise will be included, so here's exceptions. Reboots, remakes, or culturally adapted versions will be included when they meaningfully reinterpret the story. For example, and I know people are going to disagree with me on this, but I'm going to say go watch them again. Nikita or La Femme Nikita, as it was released in the US in 1990. Actually, it wasn't released in the US till 91. Starred Anne Parolot. And the film Point of No Return, the 1993 Hollywood remake starring Bridget Fonda. They are both included. They differ in performance, tone, and narrative emphasis. Watch them again. The overall moral of the second movie is not the same as the overall moral of the first movie, and the each stands as a distinct entry. There are differences that fundamentally change the narrative. Kill Bill is treated as one film. Quentin Tarantino intended it as a single work titled Kill Bill: The Whole Bloody Affair, then split them into volumes 1 and 2 as a release constraint, not a creative separation. It is the only multi-part release reviewed here as a single unified work. Franchise application examples: MCU. Black Widow is the only single qualifying entry. Her history appears across multiple MCU films, but none of them is her mission objective. So you can see right there what I've said about all of them. Um, Black Widow is the only MCU film that qualifies. It features multiple female assassins as main characters. There's Natasha, Yelena, Melina, and Taskmaster. Their training and assassin identity directly drive the plot. The narrative is explicitly about dismantling a female assassin program called the Red Room, and the conflict and resolution revolve around their past and present roles as assassins. Now, in the X-Men franchise, X-Men Days of Future Past is the single qualifying entry. Mystique appears across multiple X-Men films, but her assassination objective is only central to one, and there you can see on each of those the arguments for and against. X-Men Days of Future Past is the qualifying entry because the entire plot is driven by Mystique's objective to assassinate Dr. Boulevard Trask, as played by Peter Dinklage. It's a specific political or military target. She has specialized training, a history of lethal operations, and a mission that is explicitly assassination. And the film's plot collapses without her assassination objective. Because in the beginning of the film, in the future, she has already assassinated the character, but when they send Wolverine back into the past, he's trying to stop her from assassinating that character. X-Men, Apocalypse, and Dark Phoenix don't qualify. In the John Wick universe, Ballerina is the only qualifying entry. There were two candidates that exist in the John Wick universe. John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum, which features Halle Berry as Sophia. She is not the protagonist. The film is not centrally about her, and her assassin mission does not drive the storyline. In Ballerina, which is originally titled From the World of John Wick, Ballerina, is 100% centered on Eve, a female assassin. That makes it the stronger, pure, and more appropriate representative for this list. And even though Ballerina has been marketed as a standalone story, it features Keanu Reeves as John Wick, it uses the Rusk aroma, and it takes place chronologically within the Wick timeline, and it carries the official John Wick franchise branding. The sequels and franchise criterion applies. Ballerina is the only selected entry for this universe. Now, what about documentaries and real world events? Well, documentaries, docudramas, and films depicting real world assassination events will not be included. This list covers fictional narratives only because real women involved in targeted killings deserves ethical distance. Including such films risks mischaracterizing or sensationalizing real suffering. Documentaries tend to be generally investigative, journalistic, or forensic in framing. They are not genre stories centered on a trained assassin. They do not meet the definitional standard used in this project. For example, the 2020 film Assassins documents a real world event. It does not qualify. Types of films included and excluded. Included are live action feature length films featuring female assassins that meet all the criteria listed above. They are eligible regardless of country of origin, language, budget, or era. Domestic or international productions, films containing mature themes or non-graphic sensual content, provided the primary purpose is narrative storytelling. And genre films including action, thriller, noir, martial arts, crime, pinku egya, and similar international categories. Excluding foreign films or films with mature elements would distort the history of this subgenre and eliminate foundational titles such as Lady Snowblood, Nikita, and Shinobi Hard Under Blade. A film qualifies as long as the assassin-driven narrative is the primary purpose of the story, even if the film includes stylized eroticism or sensual themes. For example, Gunwoman and Cat Run. Excluded is animation of all kinds. This includes anime, CG features, and animated shorts. Animated assassin narratives are too numerous across too many subgenres to include without making this list unmanageable. Films whose primary purpose is adult content also are excluded because their primary purpose is adult content rather than storytelling. Any film produced primarily to showcase explicit adult material or story, character development, and assassin narrative are secondary or incidental is excluded. This exclusion is based on narrative integrity, not cultural bias. If the film's primary goal is storytelling and the assassin narrative drives the plot, it may still qualify regardless of mature content. If the film's primary goal is explicit adult entertainment, it automatically does not. So that is the entire definitive ranked list of female assassin films definitions, criteria, and qualifying rules. And now we move on to the definitive ranked list of female assassin films research methodology and scoring system. The research methodology. External sources were reviewed. 44 external sources were reviewed and cataloged as part of the research for this project. Sources include YouTube video lists and rankings, Reddit threads and community discussions, e-zines and blog posts and social media posts and threads. Now, I said there was originally about 50 different sources I reviewed. Actually, there was more than that, but the ones that were not included on this list were discluded for the very reason that um, they were not very credible and they were hard to link to it. So every film appearing on any of these 44 sources has been recorded in a master Excel spreadsheet database. Films have been categorized as follows: films that have been watched and ranked, films that have been watched and confirmed to meet criteria, films that fail to meet the criteria defined in document 1, films still pending review and addition to the spreadsheet. So films that fail to meet the criteria end up at the bottom down here under not included, does not meet criteria for female assassin movies. Now there's going to be a lot that you're going to disagree with me on, but I promise you that I have researched the criteria, and where it says fails criteria, it fails. TV series aren't included, documentaries aren't included, but everything else that fails criteria, it's just marked as fails criteria, and I've had those arguments already. So that's that on those. And so as we return to this list here, why external sources were reviewed. The purpose for reviewing external sources was not to adopt their rankings or accept their definitions. Most of these lists do not define their terms. They were reviewed to identify films that recur frequently across multiple lists, ensure no significant title was overlooked, and document which films other sources include that do not meet the criteria established in this project and why. This research is one of the distinguishing features of this project. It allows for a transparent record of which commonly listed films were considered, which were excluded, and the specific reasons for each exclusion. I'm going to show you this here real quick. Where is it? Atomic Blonde. I showed you all those other lists, so we get down here to these lists, right? Starting with Ranker. Atomic Blonde is on almost every single one of these lists. And I understand why, but I also understand why I could not include it. And I really think it's an exceptional film. It's just not a female assassin film according to the criteria. Um, Audience scores versus critical scores. The spreadsheet organizes films according to 4 external rating sources. So coming back to this, I'm going to come over to here. Those 4 external sources are IMDb, Metacritic, Rotten Tomatoes, and the popcorn meter. Now, it's important to understand that they're sorted by a customized order prioritizing the IMDb user ratings and Rotten Tomato audience score. This ordering reflects a deliberate methodological choice. The IMDb user ratings and the audience score provide data even for films with limited or no formal critical coverage. And I'm going to give you some examples of that. You can look here. There are whole areas where the only thing that I have to go by is the IMDb score. And then there are times where there's only the IMDb score and only the popcorn meter score. That's it. So IMDb user ratings and audience scores provide data with limited or no formal critical coverage. Audience scores sometimes reflect the actual viewing population for a specific type of film more accurately than general critical consensus. This does not mean that audience scores are always correct. It means that they are weighed more heavily in the organization of data. While all four scores are recorded and available for reference, no external score directly determines the rankings on this list. External rankings are reference data only. The rankings on this list are determined exclusively by the scoring criteria described below. Consistency and bias acknowledgement. I'm going to let you know this list is by nature the product of one reviewer's judgment. The following principles have been applied to minimize the effect of personal bias. Films are ranked against other female assassin films only, not against films from other genres or subgenres. Films are evaluated within their historical or cultural context. A film is not penalized for its era, country of origin, or production budget. Personal affection for a film or its creators does not alter the score. The scoring criteria are applied consistently regardless of fond memories or admiration for the filmmakers involved. Every film that has been watched and ranked has a recorded rationale. That record is maintained separately in my ChatGPT and provides a basis for the individual film reviews published as part of this project. The goal is not a perfect list. The goal is a consistent, well-reasoned, and transparent one. Here's the scoring system. Categories. Each film is scored in up to 4 categories: writing, direction, action and fight choreography, and acting. Score range. Each category is scored on a scale from 1 to 10. Decimal scores are used. Scores are not limited to whole or half points, so you might see a 7.1 or 7.5 or an 8.3 or 9.0, etc. Scoring categories: writing. Writing evaluates story structure, character development, dialogue, narrative cohesion, themes, pacing, plot construction. Questions applied. Is the story coherent? Is the dialogue effective? Are the characters believable? Are the themes successfully explored? Does the story remain engaging? Direction. Direction evaluates visual storytelling, tone, atmosphere, scene construction, emotional impact, use of camera and editing, and overall presentation. Questions applied. Does the director successfully tell the story? Does the direction enhance the script? Does the film maintain immersion? Action and fight choreography evaluates combat choreography, gunplay, tactical realism, physical performance, stunt work, action editing, action clarity. Questions applied. Is the action believable? Is it immersive? Is it visually understandable? And does it support the story? If a film contains insufficient action to evaluate fairly, this category may be omitted from the final score calculation. Acting evaluates performance quality, emotional authenticity, character portrayal, screen presence, chemistry, and believability. Questions applied. Do the actors elevate the material? Do they become the characters? Do they strengthen immersion? Immersion is the central principle behind every score. The primary question is, did the film successfully pull me into its story? A high scoring film holds attention, creates emotional investment, makes the viewer want to continue watching, and successfully communicates its story. A low scoring film breaks immersion, creates confusion, becomes distracting, fails to engage. Every scoring category contributes to or detracts from immersion. A technically proficient film that fails to engage still scores lower than a less polished film that succeeds in pulling the viewer in. Historical and cultural context is a consideration. Films are evaluated within their historical and cultural context. A film is not penalized for its era. Factors considered: the country of origin, the era of filmmaking, the intended audience, genre conventions of the time, available technology, and cultural storytelling traditions. Relevant cinematic traditions include but are not limited to French cinema, Japanese cinema, Hong Kong action cinema, American studio filmmaking, and independent filmmaking. The goal is not to compare every film directly to modern productions. The goal is to determine how successfully each film achieved its objective within its own context. Now for final score. The standard formula includes all 4 categories. It's writing plus direction plus action and fight choreography plus acting divided by 4. In the alternate formula, where the action and fight choreography are omitted, it's writing plus direction plus action to acting divided by 3. This is applied when a film contains insufficient action content to evaluate that category fairly. What the score represents is the overall score reflects the film's success as a female assassin film. It does not represent the film's standing relative to all other films made. It does not reflect critical consensus or audience popularity. It represents one consistent reviewer's evaluation of how well the film functions within this specific subgenre applied against a fixed set of criteria. This list ranks female assassin films against other female assassin films only. That is my goal. So, at this point, I'm going to stop this video. I'm going to edit this video and see what I can make of it. And then for the second video, I'm going to address the king and queen of assassin films. Yes, there is a king and yes, there is a queen, and I'm going to give you all the reasons why. That will be in the second film. And then after that, I'm going to start evaluating the films that have been watched that qualify. If you want me to do a video on all the films that were not qualifiers and why not, I can absolutely do that, but that's going to take a couple of videos as well. So, yeah, thank you for watching this far.